Hello, I'm Brian Potts. Welcome to I Hate Rock Music. It's been a while since I've done videos for this channel because, like everything I do on YouTube, YouTube censors pretty much whatever I post, including these innocuous music commentary videos. So I've been a little slow, but I'm going to try and ramp it up again because I got a lot to do ongoing and moving forward. So today I want to talk about actually a band, interestingly enough, that only put out one single. And I'll occasionally be doing this because there's some bands that are so interesting and so cool that only manage to put out one single, and they're nonetheless notable. And it's very appropriate that I should start with a band called Child Herald. And they put out a single in 1968 called Brink of Death. And it's available in a picture sleeve for you collectors out there. But fascinating band and well worth mention. And so let's get into the history a little bit. So they came out in 1968 and they did quite a few shows actually. They got together in spring of 67 in Ozone Park, New York. And I was really delighted to hear they actually did a lot of live shows in New York. And their whole catalog, unfortunately, we only have two songs, but their whole catalog was full of grand arrangements, and I can only imagine what they did. Maybe someday a lot more of their material will appear, but it's been uh, well over 60 years now, and it hasn't appeared yet. But I don't want to write it off. But apparently they had quite a light show too, including fog machine and magnesium flakes in the air. So to go along with their psychedelic extravaganza of their music, they had quite a show. And they opened for a lot of notable bands as well. They opened for the Yardbirds and they opened for Kenny Rogers, the first edition, who were really big back then. They played all the big clubs, Peppermint Lounge, the Electric Circus, the Cheetah. So they got around. And so, there's apparently a lot of people out there who are very fortunate to see him live. But the single in itself is amazing. Um, it was written by Bert Summer of Left Bank, which is pretty notable, and it was produced by Walter Carlos, who of course got to be better known moving forward as Wendy Carlos. But he did all the sound effects and the Moog parts on this record. And I have to say, it's one of the most psychedelic things I've ever heard. It's a total masterpiece, and if they'd released an entire album and it was of this quality, they certainly would be up in the high echelons of psychedelic music of that era, including Pink Floyd. In a lot of ways, they're far more complex and more interesting and truly psychedelic than a lot of things that Pink Floyd were even doing at the time. And I know that's something to say. And Walter Carlos also wrote the B-side, "And with Love," and unfortunately, there's not that many stock copies of the single around there. Most of them are promos, and so just have the stereo mono version of "Brink of Death" without the B-side "And with Love." But it's well worth looking up on YouTube. I've also attached it below in a playlist, and you really should check it out. And the band's name came from Childe Harold's Pilgrimage by Lord Byron. So that's where they got the name from. And the band itself was Bruce Herring on vocals, Richie Bora on organ, Dave Cancel on drums, and Tony Petr Petr Petriliano on guitar and vocals. And I was totally fascinated because I'm going to do a video on Haystacks Balboa, another notorious New York band of that era and moving forward. But Bruce Herring, the vocalist for Child Harold, actually replaced the original singer in Haystacks Balboa. So Bruce Herring can be heard on the Haystacks Balboa record. And one of the other fascinating things about Child Harold for me is there wasn't that many rock bands on the Limelight label. They are most noted for a couple of great jazz releases, including some things by Mingus. And they also put out an incredible series of current, at that time, current electronic and music concrete records. I'm not sure how many were in the series, but there's probably well over a dozen, maybe 15 or 20 of them that are all really staggering. And once again, the level of psychedelia involved in that early electronic music is pretty profound, and certainly more complex and sometimes a lot more interesting than a lot of the notable psychedelic bands that have such a high profile. So anyway, that's all the information. I was surprised I could even find that much out about Child Herald. And so, like I say, go ahead and check out the playlist down below. I've included their single in that playlist, and you really have to hear it to believe it. Really, really stunning. So there you go, Child Herald. Check them out. I'm Brian Fox. Thank you for watching I Hate Rock Music.